We left off in the middle of something before Yud Shvat. So we'll continue now from that point. We left off in the Inyan of Tachlis Habriya. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya that you can't say that the Tachlis HaKavona is Eilem HaSolyonim Hoil V'Lahem Yeridam Eirpanav Yisparech. The Eilem HaSolyonim are a Yerida from Eirpanav. So I think we left off with the question, what does that mean? If Eilem HaSolyonim are a Yerida, surely we are a bigger Yerida. Right? So what's the simple meaning, and what's the Rebbe Machadish in this Maimah on those words of Tanya? It says like this. First of all, we were discussing what's the Pshat in Tanya itself. The Alter Rebbe starts off by saying in Perek Lamed Vav, the Tachlis of Olam Hazeh is Nisav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lish L'Dira B'Tachteinim. So that's more or less settled, right? The first opening lines of Tanya Perek Lamed Vav. You want to know what the Tachlis HaKavana is? Dira B'Tachteinim. Then, at the end of the page, suddenly he says, V'hinei, I'm going to tell you a new point, says the Alter. V'hinei means a new point. So besides what I told you before, the Tachlis HaBriya is Olam Hazeh, the Tachlis B'Riya is Olam Hazeh is Nisav HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lish L'Dira B'Tachteinim, is V'hinei Tachlis HaYishtalshus HaOlam Es V'Yidosom Einam B'Shvil Olam HaSolyonim. Didn't you already just say that the Tachlis is Dira B'Tachteinim? Right, so this piece we discussed last time. What is the Alter Rebbe adding on towards the end of the page? So the answer is that there's two things. Number one, what the Medrash is telling us is only talking about Olam Hazeh. It's not talking about Olam HaSolyonim. The Medrash, no Medrash tells us what the Kavanah is in Atzilus. Chal and Medrash don't talk about Atzilus. The only Medrash that talks about Atzilus and Haya is the Zohar. But the Medrash itself is only telling us the Tachlis of this world. Tachlis of this world, you want to know what the reason of this world was created for. What's the Tachlis of this world? Not the reason. Not a reason sichli, but the Tachlis HaKavon of this world is Dira B'Tachteinim. But somebody may come up with an idea and say, okay, the Tachlis HaKavon of this world is Dira B'Tachteinim, but maybe there's another Kavona in Olam HaSolyonim, and after we finish this world, we'll finish something else up there in Olam HaSolyonim. Like, for example, the Shitta of the Rambam. The Rambam Shitta is that Tchias HaMeisim is not the end of the whole thing. Chassidus holds the Shitta Rambam, the Tachlis is the Tchias HaMeisim, Neshamas B'Gufim, Chaim Nitzchim, and Neshamas B'Gufim. But the Rambam holds, at least that's what it seems by Godly, the Rambam holds that after we finish Tchias HaMeisim in this world, there'll be a higher schar in Gan Eden. So you see that Tachlis Olam Hazeh may have a Tachlis for itself, but afterwards there's something else going on up there. Says the Alter Rebbe, no. The Tachlis is Shtalshlus HaOlamus. All the Olamus were for the same Tachlis as Olam Hazeh. This Tachlis that we just said before, Dira B'Tachteinim, is not just for Tachteinim. It's not just for this world, Bris Olam Hazeh. It's also for Atzilus and Haya. What's the Raya? Maybe there's another Kavan over there. Surely Olam HaSolyonim are higher than this world. Says Alter Rebbe, no. Hoil v'lehem yeridim eirpanav yisparech. This is where it comes in, because Olam HaSolyonim are yerida. What does that mean, that they are yerida? And therefore, you can't say the kavan is Olam HaSolyonim because they are yerida. Here comes the problem. If Atzilus is considered a yerida, then surely we are kama v'kama pa'amim a yerida. So what does it mean that they're yerida and we're not? What's Pshat and Tanya? Yeah, just ask a simple Pshat and Tanya, not going. Anyway, before we get to the Maimah, we have to know Pshat and Tanya. So, there may be all different types of explanation, but the explanation which was brought down in Chassidus, which is fairly clear in a Maimah from the Rebbe Rashab and Samach Tes, comes out like this. What does it mean that Olam Yisrael are Yerida? First of all, we have to be sure we're not talking about a Yerida legabe atzmus, because everything is a Yerida legabe atzmus. Nothing is comparable to atzmus. Ein arech l'cha. Midei malach. So we're not talking about legabe atzmus. The diak is hoil v'lahem Yerida. They are a Yerida for themselves. They have a Yerida by becoming what they are. Olam Yisrael. What does that mean? So, was basically explained, and now the Rebbe brings it also over here. What is, for example, Olam Atzilus? An Olam of 10 spheres, which were Nertzal, Min HaHelem El HaGilui. And where were these 10 spheres beforehand? They were Kol in a higher Olam, either in Keser, or you want to go higher, in Akudim, in Atik and Akudim, in Toihu, in Ak, Lifnei HaTzimtzum, the highest level of Esser spheres B'derech Klal, is an Oren Sof Shlifnei HaTzimtzum, Esser spheres Ephemoses. So the spheres were up there. If the spheres were up there, and now they came down and became Atzilus, what have you gained? For the Esser spheres, what is your gain? You've gained nothing. You've taken the Esser spheres which were already there beforehand in Oren Sof, and there they were B'mayla Madrega of Oren Sof, and you've schlepped them down through a system of Tzimtzumim until you came to Olam Atzilus. Atzilus is the last of the Olam Yisrael. So basically you've just schlepped something big and made it small. How could that be a tachlis? What could be a marshal for such a thing? Imagine somebody makes a palace. He builds himself a palace. Why does he build himself a palace? Because he wants to live in it, right? He wants to have a nice big palace. Plenty of rooms, all the midas that you can think of. And then he says, you know what, the tachlis, what I'm going to do to this palace, he starts chopping off the sides of the building, and then making from the building smaller and smaller and smaller, until it becomes a small little building, a tiny little one-room house. And he says, this is the tachlis. That's a tachlis. Taking a palace and making it into a hut is a tachlis. That's a yerida. So you can't say the Kavanah is Atzilus. Why? Because Atzilus used to be a palace up there in Oren Sof. What did you do? You schlepped him down till he became Atzilus. That's a Yerida. I was to frag Nakasha, what about Olam Hazeh Hagashmi? Olam Hazeh is definitely a Yerida. We're much lower than Atzilus. Tevis is Havadi, it's so much lower than Atzilus. But in Madrega. But Olam Hazeh is not a Yerida from somewhere else. It wasn't pshat that I had an Olam Hazeh in a much bigger way, in a higher way. And I schlepped it down and it became a small Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh was Kam Nimtza Kam Hoya. As it was created, that's what you have. So it's not like somebody building a palace and chopping it down until he comes into a one room. It's like somebody who, all he can afford is to build a one-room house, and that's what he built. What's the problem? He built a one-room house. You can say it's a Yerida. No, that's what he had. If he had a palace and made it into one room, that's a Yerida. But if he builds L'chatchila, a one-room house, that's not a Yerida. So what would be the tachlis of this one-room house? Whatever you wanted, the one-room house. You built a house because you want to live in one room, fine. You may want to add to it, that would be Tzerech Aliyah, that would be something that you can add to it. But to take something big and make it small doesn't make sense. Or a much more simple example, take somebody who's very rich. What's the tachlis of a rich man? To become poor? Take Atzilus the way he's rich in Sof Shlifnei HaTzimtzum and make him poor into Olam Atzilus, that would be a tachlis, not tachlis. But to make Olam Hazeh, which is poor l'chatchila because it's built as Olam Hazeh Hagashmi, and to be moisef to it, that makes sense. That could be a tachlis. So that's why he's saying you can't say the Kavanah is Olam Yisrael because Olam Yisrael have no maila over Olam Hazeh. Olam Hazeh was built the way it is. It makes sense that it has a tachlis. If you're asking why he built Olam Yisrael, maybe there's a bigger tachlis there. What bigger tachlis could there be over there? Whatever was there was already kol in Oren Sof, and it's a Yerida. That's the simple pshat in Tanya. The Rebbe in this Maimah adds on another pshat in Tanya. It's similar, we'll see if we get there, to another beer of the Rebbe Nishma Seiden, where he also adds on the same type of beer as the Rebbe Rashab adds on to the Mikveh Rebbe. We'll soon see the inyan of what he says later on, that Atzmus is movdul from Giluyim, this is, it'd be difficult to understand now, but if you can imagine there's a biur from the previous Rabbeim, and the Rebbe Rashab adds on the dimension of Atzmus, so to speak, the inyan of Atzmus into the equation. The Rebbe is doing the same thing over here. If you want to know Pshat and Tanya, that's a whole hem reading, we've dealt with that. But the Rebbe says there's something more to it. What's more to it? That not just Olam Yonim is a Yeridim Mo'epanav Yisbarach mitzad Atzmam, that they used to be Yonim, even more Yonim, they were Kol L'Ner and Sof, and now you schlepp them down until they became Olam Atzilus, which is a Yerida. It's not just that. They are a Yerida even b'yachas to this world. Now how can there be a Yerida b'yachas to this world? This world is Olam Hazeh Hagashbi, the lowest of the lowest. Tachn shein tachn l'mata mimenu. It's an achanami. In Madrega he's the lowest, but there's something here which you can't get in Olam Yonim. What can you get in Olam Hazeh which you can't get in all the Olam Yonim? So, Torah mitzvah is what's given down here. So we talk about mitzvah the etzem bria of Olam Hazeh. What can you find in Olam Hazeh which you can't find in all Olam Yonim? Koyach Ein Sof, Koyach Atzmus. Because what creates Yesh Miyayin? Atzmus. You need Koyach HaBeira. All the other Olamas are Giluyim. So whatever milas they have is all in Giluyim. Olam Hazeh, maybe an Olam Hazeh Gashmi v'Tachton, but what was able to create such a Yesh? Koyach Atzmus. So there's something over here which is not over there. So Atzilus is, in a sense, with all respect, is not lower than us, but it's lacking something that we have down here. Kamuvan, the Olam Hazeh Tachten is the lowest of the lowest, and therefore to get to the Koyach Atzmus that's in Olam Hazeh is not so straightforward through Torah mitzvahs. But still, the Etzem Bria of Olam Hazeh is mitzad Koyach Atzmus, and that's something they say when the Alter Rebbe was Megala that inyan. We have to remember this is not. You can ask a simple question on all of this. The Rebbe is adding on this piece, this point. The Atzmus is in Olam Hazeh, and you can't find that in all Olam Yonim. The Alter Rebbe didn't say that in Tanya Perek Lamed Vav. He's talking on Perek Lamed Vav, yeah? Perek Lamed Vav, all he says is Hayol V'Lehem Yidin Me'er Panav Yisbarach. And the explanation is, like I said before, that it was the Esesphiris were beforehand Kol L'Ner himself, and now you schlepp them down to Atzilus. It's like taking a palace and making it into a hut. That's a Yerida. Why didn't the Alter Rebbe also add on that it's a Yerida what the Rebbe is saying? It's a Chiddush that the Rebbe is saying, that Atzilus is not just a Yerida for himself, from a palace to a hut. He's also a Yerida, so to speak, L'Gaba Olam Hazeh. Why? Because Olam Hazeh has Koyach Atzmus, which he doesn't have. The Alter Rebbe didn't say that in Tanya. Is you have to remember this whole inyan that Koyach Atzmus is in this world and not an Olam Yonim is a Chiddush that was Nischadish only korov to the Istalkus of the Alter Rebbe. Where does it say this, that you need Koyach Atzmus in this to create this world? Which part of Tanya does it say? It doesn't say the first part of Tanya, nor in the second, which is Shayach HaBe'emunah, which talks about its Havis Eshmiyayin, nor in the third part, which is Geras HaTshuva, it's got nothing to do with that. It's in the fourth part. And which part of the fourth part? Simon Chaf. And when was written Simon Chaf? It's the last two Igros that the Alter Rebbe wrote just before his Histalkus, right? There was two Igros he wrote. One, a very Avodah Igros, a very short one. What's it called? Nifshach Shrela, which is not in Tanya, it's printed elsewhere. And the other one is Yevech HaYoichad, which is Simon Chaf in Igeres HaKodesh. These two were written. The Simon Chaf is a very long and very difficult Igeres, and it's talking about Be'ikeh Inyonim of Spheris and Koyach Atzmus and Ishavos and all these things. So a lot of Haskalah. The other one is about Nefesh HaShvela, it's talking about doing Chesed. A very interesting, short thing that nowadays in Ikvus and Mashiach, the whole avodah is to do Chesed, and even if it's not an emes Chesed, you should still do it. You should still do the Chesed, even if it's not a Chesed Shel emes. Huh?
Is that before Manish, before Kuntis Achim?
If the Alter Rebbe is talking for what? You say again?
Kuntis Achim, before Kuntis.
Not Kuntis Achim. Not Kuntis Achim. It's not Kuntis Achim.
But it's like a Cheshvan.
No. Kuntis Achim was written as Miluyim, Shlomis and Hisofis to the other parts of Tanya. It's like a fifth part of Tanya of the three. And it's usually a pilpul in certain inyanim which were mentioned earlier. But this is an Igeris Bifnei Atzmus. The Alter Rebbe wrote Kol of Le'istafusay, Siman Chav, and Nefesh HaShvela. And Nefesh HaShvela talks about Midas HaChesed, and you have to do Chesed, and even if you don't mean it, you should still do Chesed. Siman Chav is all about Sfiris and Hishavas and lots of Inyanim. Now, in Siman Chav, that's where the Alter Rebbe was Megala this Nakuda, that his Havas HaGashmius is B'keich HaAtzmus. And the way the Frierdiker Rebbe describes it in the Kutei Diburim, it says, it sounds like the Chassidim started having a bit more derech eretz for Elam Hazeh after that Igeris. Until now, Elam Hazeh, Segonish, Seinoid, Skaf, you're pushed away. And all of a sudden, Keich HaAtzmus, derech eretz. Somebody told me there was a bacha who was a bit mufshit in Benoit, that if you used to bump into something, you would apologize to. You know, he bumped into the tree, would apologize to Keich HaShmiyah. It's a Moshel and Chassidus. This Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe was Nisgala only at the end. So, therefore, it's not a pella that the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it down in Perek Lamed Vav. It's not, it doesn't come in over there. It was Nisgala Esh later. The Rebbe's taking Siman Chaf and putting it into Perek Lamed Vav. And he's adding to the Yeridim upon of Yisbarach. Besides the simple pshat of Yeridim upon of Yisbarach, that the Olam itself is a Yeridim because you've taken a palace and made it into a hut. Even b'yachas to Olam Hazeh it's a Yeridim. Why is it Yeridim to Olam Hazeh? Because Olam Hazeh has Keich HaAtzmus and he doesn't. All the Olam Esalyanim are all Giluyim. That's the Heisofa in Perek Daled of this Maimah. There's time for one more deal, and then the Rebbe adds on another reason why you can't say the Kavanah is Olam Esalyanim. This is all to explain what the Alter Rebbe says over here, that you can't say the Kavanah is Olam Esalyanim. V'tachlis ishtalshlus Olam v'yidasim adrega eina b'shvil Olam Esalyanim. I have to make a nakuda over here. I don't remember if I was madgish it last time. There's no place where the Alter Rebbe or the Rebbe is going to tell you that the Kavanah is Olam Hazeh because, and give a positive reason why the Kavanah will be Olam Hazeh. The only reason, the only nakuda we can say why the Kavanah is Olam Hazeh, if we call it a why Olam Hazeh, is Nisava, which means that there's no reason. If Atayvis King Kasha, this is what the Eibishter wants, that's it. With all the biurim of Nisava. That has to be made clear. You're never going to find a reason saying, you know why Olam Hazeh? Because. As soon as you have a because, it's already a reasoning, and a reasoning is already a tam sichli, and that doesn't make sense. The only thing you're going to find, and that's the whole Perek Daled, and that's why a lot of people have seen the ha'olos, people mix up, which I'm saying that the Eibishter wants this world because, and they start bringing explanations from this Maimah. Nowhere in this Maimah is the Rebbe going to say, you know why he needs Olam Hazeh? Because. You can't give a reason, it's Nishava. All you can do is, once you know that the Kavanah is this world, by being sure that it's not in the higher worlds, then you can say, now I understand what's the mind of this world. Which it's all after the Shlila of Olam Esalyanim. So this is the next piece of the Maimah is, again, a Shlila why you can't say the Kavanah of Olam Esalyanim. It says, V'oid, Shekiven shezehu rak giluyim, yef shalom sheha'atzmus hu b'shvil giluyim. It's another thing that has baffled many people. What does that mean? You can't say the Kavanah is Olam Esalyanim because you can't say the Atzmus is b'shvil giluyim. So what do people say? That means to say, but you can say Atzmus is for Olam Hazeh because it's not a Gilu, it's Keich Atzmus over here. That can't be the meaning of what he's saying over here. You can't say that the Atzmus is b'shvil Olam Hazeh. You can't say b'shvil on Atzmus. Atzmus is not b'shvil anything. Atzmus is Atzmus. So what does it mean you can't say Olam Esalyanim? Because you can't say that Atzmus is b'shvil Gilu. You can't say that Atzmus is b'shvil. What does that mean? So if, by the very fact that you're using the words Atzmus Bishvil, you're obviously not talking about Atzmus. Because Atzmus, you can't say the word Bishvil, it doesn't make sense. He's Beriliashis, Belisachris. He's not Bishvil anything. Hulavadehu, and that's it. Hashamara Paterim Kol Yitzul Nivro. Beriliashis, V'achli Kechlesa Akol Lavadeim Loich Neiro, he doesn't need us. Or as the Rambam says, he doesn't need anyone, and he doesn't. So he's not bishvil anything. So what does it mean? Atzmus over here. It's not talking about atzmusai. It's talking about the koyach atzmus that's in Olam Hazeh. if you're going to say that the reason why the Eibishter created this world is not for this world, this is not the end tachlis. The tachlis is, of this world, is in order to get later on to Eidam Salyein. Remember we said, let's take the shit of the Rambam. He says that after we finish Tchias HaMeisim in this world, we'll then continue in Gan Eden, in Eidam Salyein. So you're saying that this world is not the end tachlis. So that means the kavanah of this world of Dira B'Tachtenim is bishvil going to something high in Eidam Salyein. Says the Rebbe in the Maimon, Ef Shalema Shaha Atzmus Hu Bishvil Giluim. What does it mean, Shaha Atzmus? He means the Atzmus Sheba Elam Hazeh. That the reason why the Eibishter used the Koyach HaAtzmus in this world, by creating this world, like we said before from Megillas HaKodesh, that how was this world created differently from all other worlds? By the fact that the Eibishter used the Koyach HaAtzmus. So there's Koyach HaAtzmus in this world. So what would happen now if we say that the Koyach HaAtzmus was used to create this world and not in Atzilus? Atzilus is just a Gilui, right? It's a Gilui of oil. And when he came down and created this world, which Koyach was used? Not Gilui, Koyach HaInsof, Koyach HaAtzmus. Okay, so now we've created Elam Hazeh. If you're going to say that after Elam Hazeh, there's a higher Tachlis or a next Tachlis in Elam HaSalyein, what would that mean? That he used the Koyach HaAtzmus in this world in order to get to what? Giluyim. You can't say that Etzem is Bishvil Gilui. Why can't you say that? Why can't you say that the Etzem is Bishvil HaGilui? That the reason why you use the Koyach HaAtzmus is, first of all, the simple meaning is, you're using a bigger Koyach to get to a lesser Koyach doesn't make sense. That's how most people understand it. If you're going to use Koyach HaAtzmus to create this world, and then you're going to say, but once we've done this world, we're going to go to something higher up there, which is Giluyim, that means you've used up Koyach HaAtzmus for something that's less than Koyach HaAtzmus. Giluyim. It's like somebody working very, very hard at making something and creating something. Let's say it's creating I can't think of an example in Gashmius, but creating something that takes a lot of effort, and the kavanah is to get something which didn't take such a big effort to create. For example, he created something with, he used very heavy special machines to create. And what was the kavanah? To get something that a child can make with his hands. Wouldn't make sense. Why would you use such big koyches in order to get something much less? Doesn't make sense. So you can't say the Eibishter created this world through koyach ha'atzmus in order to get to Giluyim in Eidam Salyein. The expression atzmus, you can't say atzmus is b'shvul Giluyim, is not just because it's a yerida, that you're using up koyches nailim in order to get to koyches which are not koyches nailim. You're making something with a lot of effort in order to get something that needs less effort. That's not the meaning of the word etzem and Giluyim. The Rebbe is adding on a new term which he didn't say before. It's not beside Yerida. What we spoke about before is the Indian of Yerida. That was the first term. This what he says, means that mitzad the geder of etzem and Giluyim, it's impossible to say that the etzem, the tachlis of the etzem is for a Gilui. Because if we think about it, what does it mean etzem and Giluyim? What's an etzem and a Gilui? Let's give a simple example. Etzem and a Gilui would be a person and his name. The etzem of the person and the name is only a Gilui of the person, right? It makes sense to say that the name is bishvil the person, but it wouldn't make sense to say that you know why this person was born, bishvil his name. Why can't you say it's bishvil his name? Not because it's a yerida. We're not going into yerida over here. It just doesn't make sense. A name is for a person's not for a name. Not because it's a yerida, because it just doesn't make sense. Or given a gashmistic example, there's such a musug of a mirror. What's a mirror? Is a gilu of the person, right? So when a person is looking in the mirror to straighten his tie, right? So he's looking in the mirror. Is the kavana is bishvil the mirror, that the mirror should see his tie? Or is it bishvil you, that you should be able to see what's going on inside you, but you can't see backwards, so you needed a mirror to help you. You can't say that the tachlis kavana is for you, is that you should be seen in the mirror. A mirror is a gilui of the person. A gilui is bishvil the etzem, not the etzem is bishvil a gilui. Not because it's a yerida for the mirror, and if the mirror would look even nicer. It's not what yerida on aliyah, that when a person looks in the mirror, he's being yoded to the madrig of the mirror. That's not the thought. The what is the etzem and gilui. Etzem. I'll give another example. The etzem of the seichel and the hasbar of the seichel. A person has a chiddush, big chiddush. He can answer hundreds of shaylas in Shas with this big chiddush of his. Fine. That's the etzem haskalah. Now he has also, in order that people should understand it, he has kama v'kama hesberim to explain it for people who can't understand his level. So he has loads and loads of little explanations. This hesber is for what reason? In order that you should understand his big chiddush. So he was machadish the chiddush in order that you should have the hesber, or the hesber is bishvil the chiddush. Why can't you say the chiddush is bishvil the hesber? Because it's a yerida, or because it just doesn't make sense? It just doesn't make sense. So it doesn't make sense. Etzem bishvil gilui means if you created this world with keich ha'atzmus, it doesn't make sense that the kavanah should be what? To go to something which kol inyani is gilui ha'atzmus. Or b'signan acher, an emtzoi can't be a matorah. The matorah of an emtzoi is the matorah, not the emtzoi. So you can't. A gilui is an emtzoi to get to the etzem, but you can't make the emtzoi a matorah for itself. And definitely you can't say that the etzem is the matorah of the etzem is the emtzoi to the etzem. It's an impossibility. So therefore you can't say that Olam Hazeh is Bishul Olam Misalyenim, because since Olam Hazeh is B'Keich HaAtzmos, so obviously the Tachlis is Olam Hazeh. Because Olam Misalyenim don't have this in Yirah, so they have Giluyim. And what are Giluyim? Gilui of Atzmos. That's what the end of Giluyim are. They are Gilui of the Etzem. We have the Etzem down there, so therefore you can't say the Kavanah is Olam Misalyenim. So those are the first 2 points that the Rebbe brings down. So just to recap in brief, the first thing the Rebbe adds on to Pshat and Tanya, the Rebbe takes Siman Chaf of Tanya, of the Geras HaKodesh, and puts it into Perek Lamed Vav. That's number one. And number two, the Rebbe adds on a new beer, which Eis Ata have not seen anywhere else, that you can't say Yif Shalem Masha'atim Subishvul Gilui. This seems to be a new beer, which was Nischadish in Tafshin Yudalef. Hashem, next time we'll get to the other beer.
What is in the word of this other?